Yes. I've got packing to do.
Let's give Don some peace and let's kick off here on the Bible recap.
Did you see it on my face? So sorry.
You're good. You're good.
It happens.
Dawn's just a little anxious for her upcoming trip. Still needs to pack, but good. We're gonna take off here. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bible recap. Of course, we have Tyler, we have Queen Dawn, and I'm Josh. Maybe we should call you Speedy Dawn tonight.
Speedy Gonzalez.
Will be that word or not?
Let's see. We are in week 42 this week, and again, I'm going to try to go through biblical order, not the reading order. But please check that out if you want to follow the daily order. So we are in Matthew, and we are going to look at chapters 10 and then 14 to 17, and then we are in Mark chapters 4 to 9. And then Luke and John, I think it's just one chapter. So there's Luke 9 and then John 6 for our reading for this week. And Tyler's going to kick us off on our questions.
Yes, I am. All right, question number 1. Read Mark chapter 4, verse 10 through 12 aloud. What do you think Jesus means by this? How does this quote from the prophet Isaiah connect with his answer here?
And 4, 10 through 12 as, and which he was alone, those around him, and when he was alone, those around him with the 12 asked him about the parables. And he said to them, to you has been given the secret of the kingdom of God, but for those outside, everything is in parables, so that they may indeed see but not perceive, and may indeed hear but not understand, lest they should turn and be forgiven. 4, 10 through 12.
What you got, Tyler?
Well, like I said, I wasn't quite as prepared as I was. I fell asleep before I got here, but I'm gonna let you guys go from there because I'm not quite following yet.
Well, I just put that not everyone will understand the kingdom, but everyone who wants to know the truth will hear. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I've got the right answer or not. But that's how I kind of perceived it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different facets here. And so like the question says, Jesus is quoting Isaiah. In the course of the time of Isaiah, the people, again, are falling away from God. And God tells Isaiah when he goes to prophesy, that you're going to preach, you're going to teach, you're going to do all this stuff, but they're going to hear you, but it's not going to make sense to them. They're going to hear your words, they're going to listen to you, but it's going to go over their heads. And part of that's not that God is doing things in a way where they can't understand. It's just they are in such a position that they are not ready to hear it, or they're even unwilling to hear it. And so I think and so what I find interesting in the parables is because parables are usually a literary tool to help explain something, to make a connection so it's clear. And so like the confusion around that, I think just goes to show that even when Jesus shows up on the scene, there are folks ready to hear him. But some people can be so stuck in their ways or so have so much tunnel vision in their mindset that they're not. It's just, again, go over their heads just like it did for the folks Isaiah was preaching to.
I think sometimes we try to predict what we think he's saying and not truly listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're trying to read too far between the lines.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done that a lot from some of these questions we've had, especially in the Old Testament. I feel like there's some times where I wasn't getting far enough, and there's other times where
I
need to zoom back out. So
I definitely overthink it, and then I've missed it.
But also with the parable of the sower of the seed, Jesus doesn't start out with the connection he's making. So like in others, the kingdom of heaven is like ... Here, it says he just starts. Behold, their sower went out to sow seed, and this is what happened. This seed, this seed, this seed, and this seed. And so there's not that immediate connection on what this illustration is all about. But I think too, and this is just me, is that for the disciples to be like, all right, Jesus, great story, but could you, expound a little bit upon that? And so I think it also differentiates those who are willing to pursue Jesus to get clarity rather than just let
Being
themselves
told.
sit in their confusion. 'Cause I think we said a little bit about it last week. And I think I'll mention again here is that there are a couple times in Scripture Jesus doesn't explain himself
Yeah.
to the crowd.
Yeah, we talked, I think last week we talked about that.
And I think we get a little bit of that here where Jesus says, I think it could be in a sense a test. How much you really want to know. How much you really going to trust me and follow me. I'm going to give you a truth here. But now are you going to pursue me for the answer key? Because Jesus, to the disciples, oh, here's the answer key.
Yeah.
But of course, then most of the crowd left.
I also think it's part of Jesus trying to prepare his disciples for. Jesus knows he's going to die shortly.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to prepare his disciples to be able to take that his next, not fill his shoes, but move that next step with the church.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give everything so that they can come back to Jesus, but also his disciples teach that lesson.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll just add one more. Unless
No, go ahead.
Okay. And of course, Jesus does this with the parable of the soils, because the lesson is, what kind of soil are you? And of course, we've got the crowd that's like, what? Let's go home and see what's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then you got the disciples who are like, hey, that was great, but could you explain it to us?
Yeah.
So how, and so the question then is, how hungry are you? How thirsty are you? And then the parable of the soils, I think, is that opening salvo, so to speak, on what this is going to look like going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready for number 2?
Number 2.
Okay. Read Mark 4:37 through 39 aloud. What does it reveal about Jesus that he doesn't rebuke the disciples for their fear in the storm, but instead rebukes the storm itself?
All right. Mark 4:34 to 37. I'm sorry, 37 to 39. And there arose a fierce gale of wind, and the waves were breaking over the boat so much that the boat was already filling up. Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on the cushion, and they woke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he got up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Hush, be still. And the wind died down, and it became perfectly calm.
I'm a bear when I wake up, so I could only imagine it would happen if he woke up. So that's kind of what I was thinking there. But I think it also just shows that he has that ability. He's more than us. He can control his environment around him with the help of God. So part of it probably gotten woken up as I feel for him there. I got woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, so I understand.
I feel he has I think it was a teaching moment. He definitely had compassion for his disciples, but it was a learning moment for the disciples as well as a teaching tool for Jesus. But also, I felt like he's trying to get them to have faith in him.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he rebuked the storm instead of them, again, it was a teaching moment for them so that he could see the power that he did have from above.
One thing I think I just want to add for what you guys said is, and she doesn't cover it, but it's not that a big thing, but especially in Mark, the overarching question, and it's the same question that ends the story, who is this? And so we think about going back to the beginning of Mark in particular. Of course, 1 sets everything up, and 2, we get into this whole let you know that the Son of Man has permission to give sins, and only God can forgive sins. Pick up your mat and walk. Wait, who is this guy that can forgive sins and tell someone who's paralyzed to get up and walk? And so more and more, especially in Mark, in the other Gospels too, but especially in Mark, you get this more of this drawing. It's like, who is this? And with each story, we're getting a bigger and bigger picture. I think Mark 2, that healing of the lame man is kind of a stone's throw into the water just to create that splash, and then we're seeing the ripples build that picture with the following
I mean,
stories.
you also think some of these disciples were in their teens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so why wouldn't you question who
Yeah.
it was you were following? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine a 12-year-old today.
But and here's the thing: is that they? I think we've said this before. I mean, they see flesh and blood. They don't have a concept that God would take on flesh.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand that God, is standing right in front of them, and so that's where this question, "Who is this?" Should just kind of stay in the back of our minds as we read every gospel. But it's a main thing, if I remember correctly, in Mark specifically. All right. Anything else? That's a pretty good question.
That was a good question.
All right. Number 3. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 22, Jesus is talking about the persecution the disciples will endure when they go out to preach the kingdom of God. He says, "The one who endures to the end will be saved." What does he mean by this?
Well, my answer was the endurance will give them the relationship with our Father. I mean, they have to see it through to understand or to connect the dots.
Yeah.
But it's also separating true believers.
Yeah. And he even says, not here, but throughout it, like, my people will be persecuted. This isn't going to be easy. So you endure till the end, you will be saved. So that's kind of where.
Yeah, because then you will understand what it was
what you went through.
what you went through and why you went through that.
Yeah.
Because you will see the kingdom. You will be with him in the kingdom.
Yeah. First or Second Peter, I think it's First Peter. He says that, in essence, that our faith is tested by trials to show its genuineness. And so I think what we see here is Jesus is saying, hey, you can speak a good game.
Mm-hmm.
You can wear the mask, you can wear the clothes, wear the cross necklace, get Jesus tattooed on your arm, whatever. But we will see who actually believes
Yeah.
if they endure to the end. Which in a 21st century American life is tough to understand because we desire peace, comfort. We want our nice 401ks.
Yeah.
We want heated seats, heated steering wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Never had those, but I'd like them.
And once
just
you
gotta go
have
to
it,
the-
they're hard to go back. It's not happening. We're
Yes.
spoiled.
So I think Jesus painting a picture right off the bat because in Matthew chapter 10, that's the first time the disciples are sent off to go on their own. Jesus is not going to be there. They are. This is the first test and actually put into practice. And so it's just saying, hey, you're going to get a lot, but you're also going to encounter a lot in the opposite direction. And how, and of course he uses save there, but again, I think using First Peter's language, our faith is going to be tested to see if it actually is genuine when we faced opposition or persecution.
All right. Number 4. Read Mark chapter 6, verse 51 to 52 aloud. What keeps the disciples from understanding Jesus? What does this reveal about head knowledge versus heart knowledge? What else can we learn from this passage?
Do you have it? Or
I have
I've
it.
got
If-
Oh,
You have, yeah,
Okay,
go
yep.
ahead.
And he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. Right? 51 and 52. Yep.
I think with the walking on the water, like, even today, like, that is something that is astounding, without assistance, to be able to walk on water. But I think with some of that, trying to read it again here because I'm trying to. For him just to be able to come out there and come to them is more than amazing. But when it comes to the head knowledge, I think it's dropping emotion, because you've never seen that. That's, just like when he turned the water to wine, we've never seen something like that. So, but when he brings, I can't remember, it's Peter, it comes out, right?
Yeah.
That the heart knowledge to trust him, but it's the head knowledge that overturned him and made him start to sink. But honestly, the walking on the water is probably one of my favorites out of all of Jesus, just because it proves that God can do the impossible. So there wasn't a lot there, but it's one of those, it's so hard to get everything out within the
Yeah.
question.
It is, especially on this one.
Yeah.
I think the difference is it's not logical. There wasn't anything rational about it. People don't walk on the water. So when you're thinking with your head, that's what you see is it's not logical, it's not rational, it can't happen. When you think with your heart, anything can be true when you truly believe. That's just how I look at the... So, like, basically, what can we learn from this passage? And I feel like you can do it in today's world if we believe with our heads, we're not going to believe a lot of these miracles. But if we search in our heart, then to me, I guess it's no different than if you're told by a doctor that you have a disease and you have so much time to live, your head's telling you that is the truth. But if you look at it from your heart, then you can believe differently because you have a understanding and a belief in somebody else who's more powerful than your head or the doctor telling you.
Yeah, they say the longest distance is 18 inches from the head to the heart.
Well,
So I'm going to add a little different perspective on this. So, because it mentions that they
bust my bubble.
No, you're good. I want to add a little bit, because her focus of her question here, what keeps the disciples from understanding Jesus? I think one of the things that Jesus is trying to teach them and demonstrate to them that when he is with them, whether physically or in spirit, they too are going to accomplish
These things.
miraculous things. So it mentions feeding the 5,000. They have the 5,000 plus women and children there. What is they're out of food. What does Jesus say to the disciples? You give them something to eat. Wait, what? Jesus, I only got $20.
yeah.
But also we got to know in Mark, this is after Jesus sends the 12 out, where they have started performing miracles and starting to teach the kingdom. And so Jesus here is teaching us, like, guess what? You're going to be able to do what I'm offering you when you follow me. You're going to be able to do some of these things. And so another thing I note, I think it's more laid out in Matthew, but Mark indicates too. Jesus says he sends them on the other side, and he says I'm going to catch up with you, basically. So if whatever Jesus says happens, why would they worry in a storm? Why were they freaking out? If Jesus says, go over to this side, I'm going to see you there. Why are you panicking about a storm? But of course, we can talk about how they're fishermen. They know the Sea of Galilee, and these storms are dangerous.
And it's not logical.
And it's not logical. But Jesus, but again, Jesus is pointing them that they are going to be participants, because in the walking on water, Peter says, Lord, if it's you, ask me to come out. Come on. And Peter goes out. Now, when does Peter sink?
When he loses faith.
Well, here's the thing about it, is he takes his eyes off Jesus. He knows the
and puts him
storm.
to the waves.
But when he starts to sink, Lord, save me. So I wonder, and historian Ray Vonderland rose this question, made me think on it, is maybe Peter's doubt wasn't so much in Jesus, because he cried out to Jesus. Maybe the doubt was in himself and what Jesus was trying to teach him and show him. So I disagree. I think there's some other doubts, but I think, again, Peter cries out to Jesus. Well, you have little faith. I'll give this to you. You can do it too. I invited you out here. Why were you worried about that? So doesn't take away what you said. I just want to add.
Yeah, definitely. No, I see. Yeah. But how many times do we do that? We don't have that.
Well, so here's the thing: is we are called to share our faith, to engage in spiritual conversations, and so when it even comes to just having a conversation with somebody, I can't do that. Oh no, you are called to that.
That's what I'm saying. How many times do we not have that faith in ourselves to go call on somebody who's sick, or to share the word?
Yeah.
Because we don't have that faith that we think we're good enough, or that we are worthy of enough, or whether we're just confident enough to share it.
Yeah. So I think of it this way: that there's a lot of times we have doubt, or Jesus is behind us going, "You got this.
Yeah.
I've given you everything you need. Holy Spirit's in you. All you just got to do is do it."
When did you give it to me?
Yeah.
If you want to walk on water, you got to step out of the boat.
Find it for me.
I like 2 feet in both on that.
Me too.
Yeah, that's a lie. I guess I go to the lake a lot, and there's a lot of times both feet aren't on the water. I felt like I was walking on water a couple times though when Dad was pulling us. So.
Okay, read John 6:28 aloud. What would you have expected Jesus to say in response to this question?
You got it? Okay.
Then they asked him, "What must we do to the works of God? What must we do to do the work God requires?"
My answer was simple. Just believe in me.
Follow me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
And I think that's just the question for a lot of people, not just them in that time, but even a lot of people in our time. What does it take? What do we got to do? What's the 10-step program? Jesus, what's the top 5?
Yeah.
Just give me a list.
Yeah.
And that's where I think.
Is there a book I can read?
Yeah. Well, and here's a spoiler at the end of John. The disciples again. They go, like, what about that disciple? Jesus is like, don't worry about him. Follow me.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess number 6. All right, we're going to read John chapter 6, verse 37, and then verse 44 aloud. Reflecting on your own life, what were some of the tools God used to draw you to himself?
Do you have it?
I got 637 right here. Yep.
44.
But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them? Give that to them to eat." Right?
637?
637. Well, maybe I'm not in 6.
John?
Oh, no, I'm still in Mark. I apologize.
I have it right
Oh,
here.
good. Okay.
If you got 37, I'll do 34. Okay. Or 44.
So I'm on 37, but not the right one.
All of those the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away.
No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day.
I think God has put a lot of people in my life, but also kind of gave me, I feel like my wife, even though we weren't super religious, I think later in life we got to be a lot more comfortable with being Christians. But also, I think God gave me some hardships that I could learn off of to, pull towards Him. It may have, casted me away for a little while, but it inevitably brought me back. So, not that they were super hard, but it was just enough to make me start believing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm stumped a little bit on this one. I mean, because reflecting on my own life, I'm sure there's a lot of areas. I mean, I feel like perseverance, patience, they've all come at different times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think whatever the case is, whatever has happened in my life, He gives me that, the tool that I need to persevere it or endure it. I honestly don't think that some of the struggles that I've had in the past that I could have gotten through them without His tools. But I can't honestly define His tool other than I'm a believer of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's just, that tool in itself has given me that strength to figure it out along the way.
Oh my goodness! As I was thinking about the tools, it's like there was so many. I mean, when I was suicidal, divine intervention at putting people in my life, especially in interesting ways, and I've shared some of that before. Dreams, I've shared some of the dreams that just like, what in the world? God's like, this way, this way, this way. And I think for a lot of people, this is encountering certain circumstances, whether maybe it's a particular blessing or maybe even in crisis, where we maybe call it an unfortunate tool, where God uses to re-enter into someone's life for them to say, all right, God, I need you because right now I've got nothing left, or I've got no one left. So and I think there's been some moments from my life, but I think the big thing's just been people in my life, those dreams on occasion, of course, the one big one where I think He spoke at the right time. Right.
Number 7.
Number 7, Mr. O.
When Jesus multiplies the loaves and the fish the first time, there's 12 baskets left over. When He multiplies the loaves and the fish the second time, there were 7 baskets left over. What do you think these numbers symbolize? How has Jesus tailored this symbolism to each audience? I'll be honest, I got nothing on this one besides 12 disciples, 12 baskets.
Yeah, help us out here. I know there's something in that
Yep,
head
there
of yours.
There is. So the 12 baskets, the first one is more than just the disciples. There's 12 of them, so that,
And
and it connects to the
tribes.
12 tribes
Yeah.
of Israel. And so
That's right as you were starting. I was like, okay.
So numerically, it's pointing out to the salvation is available to the people of Israel. Now, 7, if I remember correctly, represents the 7 nations that got pushed out of Israel when Israel entered into the Promised Land. So remember back to Joshua.
Yeah.
And so 7 then represents the Gentile nations. And so salvation is available to
Because there's
God's
plenty.
historical people.
Yeah,
Now it's
but-
going to be available to everybody, which is represented by the number 7.
Oh, cool. I would have never gotten that. Would have you?
I
That's for you,
would've-
Steve Trindle, because he'll be asking. He's so grateful we're in the New Testament.
Steve, don't forget to send in your questions.
Yeah. Or come join us.
Yes. We have another mic. You could sit in with us. So numbers symbolized here are very powerful and point to Israel, but also to Gentile nations. And so we see the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecies. Isaiah, of course, most elaborate, that this salvation is going to be for everybody, and since all the nations are going to be gathered in. All right.
Number 8. Is it me? Yeah. Read Matthew 16:24 aloud. What are 3 steps of obedience Jesus addresses here? Which is the most challenging for you, and why?
You got it, Tyler? All right, I'm there.
Not yet. You go ahead.
All right, 24. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me.
Only him, follow him, deny.
Deny self. How hard is that in our culture today?
And that is the hardest for me.
Yeah. That's, I'm probably going to agree with you, because picking up our cross, I feel like most of us would do that. But in today's society, it's a selfless society. Even
Everything comes
or
before.
selfish. I need to say not so, like
Not selling fish, but selfish.
Yeah. I've done that before, so
Sorry.
no. But even then, it's hard for us who are Christians to get outside of our cultural norms. So I agree. I think losing thyself would be the hardest.
Yeah, because I look at that as, I mean, when I'm denying, I mean, I'm putting money in front of him. I'm putting my work in front of him. I'm putting, I mean, you could go as far as sports or whatever it is. And so, yeah, I don't know too many of us that do a very good job of that.
So one of the questions that you have to answer in your ordination paperwork is, what does Jesus Christ as Lord mean to you? Talk about a time of self-reflection. Have you, to your point, Don, I mean, have you placed everything at the feet of Jesus?
No.
And like I started off, you know, in our culture today, we have to validate everything, and so then it becomes a chase, pursuit, a demanded right for every little thing, thought, feeling, whatever, even at the expense of other people. Where Jesus says, "Are you willing to give it up?" And of course, if love is to look like the cross, like we talked about Sunday, are you even willing to give up your own claims or your own rights, not just for God, but also for someone else? And so this teaching right here was one of my favorite, because it's one of the most powerful, because it really challenges us. And as I quoted Sam Elberry, if following Jesus is easy for you, you're following the wrong Jesus. Mm-hmm. In fact, in a sense, compared to the world, it should actually get tougher. Because if true love, as Christ demonstrates, is sacrificial, you know, what should that look like in 21st century America, where we're, you know, again, I don't want to repeat myself, so I'll stop and let you guys interject something.
You're good. Go ahead, because I said what I got.
Share something. Share a thought.
Well, again, it's just that denying. I know I don't do a good job of that. And then that makes me sad, because where is that person? I mean, when you look at in the grand scheme of things, we're right back to where God just has to be looking down on us and going, why can't you get it? Why can't you follow me? Mm-hmm. Because we don't do a good job of denying ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, find me that person but then he did die on this cross.
Yeah.
So I know we don't have to be that person, but I'm not even sure I pursue it. So that makes me sad.
Yeah. I know. I always feel like we're doing a lot. Like I am a good Christian, but then the more I start reflecting on this, it's like, well, maybe I am not your model Christian. You know, there's a lot of things in my life. You know, we're all sinners, and I understand that. But as we keep going through this, I think there's some more I can do. You know, for my own heart. You know, and heart and mind to really, you know, just like what it says, deny myself, pick up the cross, and follow me. So I'm not quite there yet. We'll say that.
Well, we're on the journey.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where we can't beat ourselves up because, holiness, sanctification is a journey. There's large steps, but there's also those baby steps. But it's these teachings where it calls us to take a deep, honest look.
Reflect.
Yeah.
So I believe it's my turn, correct? Number 9.
I think
Yep.
so.
Jesus warns his disciples against letting the teachings of the Pharisees creep into their beliefs. Based on what you know so far, how would you summarize the teachings of the Pharisees? How can we spot similar ideas when we encounter them in the world today?
I struggled with this one a little bit. I mean, I have down morality, but I'm not sure that that's where I wanted to go with it.
So one of the rules was how much walking you could do on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And I think
The spitting of the, like, can't spit
The
on the
dirt,
dirt.
yeah.
And
Can't spit on
because
the
you
dirt.
can't make a brick. And,
the fence around the law.
yeah.
Because I think the walking was like if you were traveling and you want to get a head start, you were only permitted, I think, the equivalent of like 3/4 of a mile. I think someone said. I'd have to double check that, so don't quote me on that, please, out there. But so if I were to summarize, I wouldn't use. So I want to say this in a specific way, and I haven't really found the right words yet. It's easy to use Pharisee to call people Pharisees because, in a sense of control. But I think for the Pharisees, it wasn't. In some cases, it was control. Obviously, it was control, but I think it was probably born out of a fear, and so they placed that fence around the law, so, as we talked about last week, to where they then became about control because this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so there's a traditionalism in the Pharisees that that could be, they would say, it's our traditions. It was like, no. And Jesus points it out several times. It's like, that's your tradition, but it's actually not based on what I've said and what the Father has given you.
It's almost like, correct me if I'm wrong, but how I've always looked at the Pharisees is like they were the tradition sheriff. They're making sure the traditions stay alive. But it's almost, they're more worried about the traditions than it was the actual worship itself.
Well, they're missing Jesus right in front of their face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, but I will be very honest, that's what I'm worried about when he comes back. Am I going to be so, have my, horse blinders on that, nope, it can't be this guy because, I'm not ready yet. Well, I'm to the point, are they almost thinking like, no, that can't be, like, it's not that bad yet. Why would he? Because that's kind of what I've gotten. When it's bad enough, Jesus is going to come and save us all. So, but getting back to the Pharisees, like, it is.
Because they followed their rules, they're prepared,
Yeah.
they're ready.
So they think, since they were, this is what they think needs to happen, and it's the way it kind of goes from there.
Yeah, because a lot of denominations and churches have split over some of the weirdest things. And And so when we think about the hills that we are willing to die on, I mean, some people choose this style of music. Now, my position's always been is who you're trying to reach. And so, I mean, and so that creates a balance is, okay, music for those folks who are there, but also creating space for either a particular group or the next generation. That's always a tough balance. And I think every church has gone through that. But also, I mean, churches are split over color of the carpet, the style of attire people in the pews wear, and even also what the pastor wears. And so some of those traditions are good, but if it becomes the essential thing, that's where it goes into where the Pharisees are at, as far as my understanding and my application. Because for me, I like a mix of ancient and modern, and that can be kind of eclectic. But I also want the best of what has the church has provided in the last 2,000 years of history, but also, what some of the newer stuff is nice and fun. Though I'll tell you what, just like a lot of older folks, I mean, in my 40s, that my music taste. Adding new music to my repertoire, it's very few and far in between nowadays.
I like what I like.
I like what I like. Though I did buy Crowder's most recent album that dates to 2021.
There you go.
But I remember when Toby Mac, when he separated from DC Talk, I remember when he started in high school gyms. I went to one of his concerts. But of course, you fill a stadium now with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that first couple albums, I mean, I'll play those more often than I'll play his most recent ones. Right.
All right, number 10. Read Mark chapter 9, verse 30 through 32 aloud. Jesus explains his death clearly to the disciples. Why do you think they can't understand what he is saying will happen to him?
Okay, 9:30 to 32. Let's see. From there, they went out and began to go through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know about it. For he was teaching his disciples and telling them, the Son of Man is to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And when he has been killed, he will rise 3 days later. How far?
32.
Just 32.
Okay. But they did not understand this statement, and they were afraid to ask him.
Well, not many people can tell you how they're going to die. So I think, again, it's that mind over heart knowledge. But it's almost, I've been in a situation a lot where you have a question, but you're afraid to ask it because you don't really want to know the answer. And I can see that's also, if you have a mentor in your life, you're not really wanting to see them go. So you probably don't want to know when they're going. So I think that's another reason why they didn't understand, but it's also they were too scared to ask the question to understand.
Yeah, I don't think they could handle the answer.
Yeah, because it would almost seem impossible. They've seen Jesus heal sick people, cast out demons, raise people from the dead, and I was talking about, you're gonna die. You're unstoppable.
Yeah.
I think part of that could be I don't know if I want to call it arrogance, but it's just like, of all the things you're able to do, this is going to end.
Yeah.
Well, he's already had one that's denied him or will deny him, and the other one will turn him over. So he knew that they weren't going to be able to handle it.
Oh yeah, I mean these guys they're still trying to wrap their minds around who Jesus is, and of course Peter, that's at Caesarea Philippi. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. I mean, the very correct statement, the truth. And then on the way back, Jesus says, "Get behind me. You're totally missing the point here." And so that's where giving ourselves and each other grace when we have those off days. That it's like even the disciples
Yeah.
who walked with Jesus for 3 years sometimes had a misstep while with Jesus.
All right, 11.
Number 11.
All right.
What is your favorite thing you read about God's character in your God shots from this week?
I got 290 this week. If I can get it open. Or not go too far. At some point we'll get there. Okay. For the disciples, the storm was bad enough. The storm, plus being sleep deprived and emotionally exhausted from serving people and mourning the death of John the Baptist, is worse. They're tired, they're sad, and now their lives are in danger. Just when they think they can't get any worse, they see a ghost coming towards them. But what's the perceived tragic or terrific is actually God moving in their lives to show them He is with them, to show them He's powerful, and for a moment He brings them joy. Even if our storms are in the middle of the night, He is where the joy is. I listened to a podcast today, and it was mostly talking about how via mental health, we're the highest mental health rates we've ever had in the world. And I think that kind of just spoke to me after listening to that. It's just showing that God's saying we can't have those emotions, but He is truly there for us and brings us joy. So it's kind of just a full circle day for me there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I chose day 288. Our relationship with God is the most important thing in our lives, and it impacts every other area of our lives. Everything we learn about and experience of Him builds on our eternal relationship. In the storm, the disciples learned something about Him they wouldn't know otherwise. He's sovereign over whatever comes their way. This is just one of many times when He demonstrates His power to them. They need to see this repeatedly because they'll face much bigger storms in their lives. From watching their leader die on a cross to facing their own horrible deaths, He's so generous to let them see more of who He is, to strengthen their faith. He's slowly but surely growing their hearts of faith from tiny mustard seeds into something that takes over and can't be killed. His kingdom goes on forever, and He's where the joy is. There just wasn't anything I didn't like about this day.
Yeah.
It spoke very clearly to me, and it's just, again, on that building that eternal relationship with Him in every storm and in every joy, that I have to continually want to build that relationship.
Good stuff. All right, I had 293. Jesus knows He's going to the cross soon. He's prepping the apostles for His death and the aftermath. He knows that they'll be tempted to think this was all for nothing. He doesn't want them to shrink back when they face oppression. He takes this trip to the worst place imaginable and says none of this wickedness will stop His kingdom. It's not a threat to His church, which will outlast everything. He's also giving them a charge to storm the gates of hell. Gates are defensive. No one attacks with their gates. So this just isn't just a promise that the enemy won't defeat them, but it's a call to go on the offense because we win. Nothing you encounter today can stop His kingdom. You can be bold in your faith because He's our King and He's where the joy is. Yeah, I don't like sitting back.
Yeah.
So it really spoke to me. And learning about Caesarea Philippi and where this place at, because literally in this place there was considered the gate to hell, and there was worship of the god Pan, and there was a lot of explicit things that happened in that location. And so it's like Jesus took them to one of the worst places imaginable. It's like taking a field trip to like a strip club, and all this. It's like, guess what? This is going to end. But imagine going to some of the worst places today. We could say places like D.C. Some of the most crime-ridden places in the country. People are abused, trafficked, and Jesus points to, guess what? this is going to end. And this is this movement, this kingdom is on a move forward, and this will not stand. And but of course, then it's also called that we have to move forward, because if the gates of hell cannot stand, then we got to be in attack mode. Attack with love, right weapons, and so I think just for me, it's just a reminder not to get too comfortable. Because it's easy, like for some pastors, you go grow a big church and whatnot, and it's like you worry about your own little kingdom, so to speak, or you get comfortable because things are going well. Where Jesus is like, okay, we've done that. Let's get ready for the next thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I've adopted the mindset for a church. It's a mission outpost. It's like, yeah, we huddle here, but this has got to be a place of sending, not just gathering. Gather and scatter, as some say. So,
right.
Sorry, I went longer than you guys did. I'm sorry.
No, you're
that's
good.
all right.
When I get
Mine wasn't
excited,
very
I get
long.
long-winded. What did you say?
Mine wasn't very long, so it wasn't much there.
All right, guys. Thank you again so much for joining us on week 42 of the Bible Recap Podcast. Next week, we're going to get into, Matthew chapter 18. So only one chapter in Matthew, so that's 18. We're not going to be in Mark at all, but we're going to be in Luke chapters 10 and then 12 to 17, and then the Gospel of John 7 to 10. So again, all this will be in the description box, but we're just so glad you guys are sticking with us. And of course, again, it's Tyler, that's Don, and I'm Josh. We'll see you next time. Take care, and God bless.
Bye.